you need to think before you speak. So really what I'm saying is watch exactly everything that you say or anything that comes out of your mouth. Really examine in your head before you speak it out into words, because there's a lot of things that we might say that we might not actually mean to say. So just really understand that your words do have consequences. And I'm not saying this to be like sensitive or be sensitive to people's feelings. I mean, if it's really how you feel, by all means, say it then, be honest. Honesty is the best policy. But be wary of when you say these things because they do have consequences. Make sure that you understand exactly what you're saying before you speak. This is going to be really important, especially when you meet new people, because you have to put on more of a professional act. Just by meeting, day-to-day people out on the street or whatever, you have to be more polite and all this, but mainly to people you're really close with, because this is when we tend to get a little too comfortable, and then we say things that we might not necessarily mean. It could be taken the wrong way. And like I said, I'm not the type to be like, sensitive, you gotta be nice to everybody. No, in my personal opinion, you either deserve the kindness that is given to you or you don't deserve it. If you're a piece of shit, you probably don't deserve any kindness whatsoever. But that is up for you to decide whether or not how you want to treat people. Me personally, I know that might come off a little like I'm full of revenge or whatever, but I'm really not out to get like people's throats. I'm all for like taking like, giving people a second chance, third, fourth, fifth chance. And I might be pushing it a little bit for a lot of people, but that is honestly how I am. It's how I've always been. But the reason why I say that is because there are some people out there that do not deserve it. And this is like, might be contradicting to kind of what I'm saying, but if you can, and you have it in you, be better than me. Use me as an example to be, better than when it comes to these things. I'm all for forgiveness and kind of like forgetting. It's good to not let that like sit there inside of you and just kind of like marinate, and it's negative for everybody. So it's not good to do that. But what I'm saying is basically there is people out there that just treat people like absolute shit. And these people, they expect everything to be handed to them and that they deserve kindness or they deserve your respect. No, respect is earned. You do not give out your respect for nobody. Obviously, this is different for people you're just meeting. You don't know this person. They haven't done anything to you, good or bad. They haven't done anything. You just met them. Obviously, it's like the most obvious thing is to be kind. You don't know these people. You just met them. You have nothing against them. You have nothing for them. So the basic default like setting is to be polite with these people because you're just meeting them. You want to put on a good first impression, especially if it's somebody that you might become closer with. But there are people who don't deserve any kindness whatsoever, and they exist out there, and it's up to them whether or not they want to change their act. But now I'm getting off topic. Think before you speak. Really understand what you're saying to the people around you, especially family, friends, and strangers. And maybe if you're making a business deal, you really gotta examine what you're gonna say, because the words you say could really throw off that deal. They could really take everything that you just built up in the conversation and throw out the window if you say the wrong thing. So it's better to sit there and kind of speak slower. Speak like you really mean what you're saying. Don't be so quick to just spit out words. Just stay calm, especially if it's in a super, anxiety-inducing situation or conversation. Say it's like an interview. The last thing you want to do, especially in an interview, is just blurt out random stuff without even thinking about it. There are some people that can just blurt out stuff and they might mean what they're saying, they might not, and they just get lucky, and there's people out there that are like that. But even for those people, I say, take a second longer. Just really think about what you're saying to give you the best impression overall. So really examine what you're saying in your head before you just blurt it out and just say it to anybody. I promise you that when you really think about the words that you're spitting out of your mouth, and you start using just like, I'm not trying to be like a teacher or anything, but just better vocabulary, more positive inducing stuff. If you're talking, right, let's put this for an example. There might be some of you out there that are like this. I know I have people around me that are like this. But if you are constantly talking, right, you might not even notice that half the stuff you're saying is just negative, and then you might see people get drawn away from you, and you might sit there and think to yourself, I wonder why these people don't want to talk to me as much, or I wonder why these people don't want to be my friends, or I wonder why this deal failed. You might quickly realize, if you actually think before you speak, you might realize that it was your fault the entire time, in that the words you were using, the thoughts you were speaking out into existence, everything, it was all negative. So this detours people away from you. You're deflecting new opportunities just because you're not thinking about what you're saying. And this is a pretty common sense thing. Everybody hears it from their parents or whatever, that you need to think before you speak. You can't say this, you can't say that. Or if you're in the kindergarten, they're telling you that's not nice to say. It's common sense. But people, when you get so used to being around and you get so used to being in life and all that, you kind of forget to think about what you're saying. Everybody does. I do. Everyone does. So just use it as like a quick reminder to just really think before you say anything. Don't speak too fast. Speak calmly. Take a second to really think about what they're asking you or telling you. This is going to be really helpful for things like interviews, deals, business related or not, making new friends with people, because you could say one thing that just throws them off and they do not want to talk to you. I've seen it happen firsthand. People have said some stuff in front of me. Like, I've had friends where, like, I would be out, let's say we have a water park close to where I live, and in the summer I go out and there's a bunch of people that go out to this water park, right? And I had friends at the time that they'll blurt out anything. They will not think about anything that they're saying, and they're loud too. So when they're blurting out these random things and they're just loud, obnoxious, and when you're meeting people, keep this in mind too, that the people you're around now, you might not realize that those people are keeping you from new relationships, because I found that out really fast. That because the way these people act, now they think I'm a part of that mix because I'm associated with them. And rightfully so, they have the right to agree with that. But, there were times though that they would sit there and actually talk to me. Most of the time they did. And they'd be like, oh, you're cool as shit. I'm not saying that to toot my own ego or anything, but they'd be like, you're cool as shit. And then the second question comes up is, why are you friends with him? Why are you friends with her? Why are you friends with these people? Doesn't make sense. They'll say stuff like that. You'll hear that often too if you're anything like me or whatever. But really, just back to the example, they'll blurt out these random things, these obnoxious things. They're just annoying, and this makes people hate you so much. And that's a perfect example of putting on a bad first impression. You know why? Because these people, my friends at the time, did not think about anything of what they were saying at all. They did not examine anything in their head or what they were going to say out their mouth. And this threw off people a lot. And this will affect you like a lot. You might not even realize it right now. Like, if you actually listen and take what I'm saying, try it for one time, you might realize that naturally you just want to talk. But remember, take like 1 to 2 seconds longer to speak. This is going to give your time. This is going to give your brain to process what you're getting asked, what you're getting told, and now what you're going to say. Because you blurting out random things, people, like, even if it's good stuff, people might not even want to listen to you, because if all you're doing is talk, kind of what I'm doing to a camera. If you're doing that to people are going to get like, they're either going to zone out and completely just ignore you and just be like, oh, yeah. Everybody's heard that. Yeah, okay, yeah. And then if you ask them, what did you say in the past 5 minutes? They'll be like, you were talking about that one person. Yeah, nobody knows, because we don't care. So think about what you're saying. Be more valuable with your words. And I mean, everybody has the really tough times where you want to get something off your chest, and by all means do that. But remember, you make sure it's something you actually mean, because sometimes you can get carried away and say stuff you don't mean at all, and that later comes to bite you in the ass, like hard. So just telling you, just really think about what you're gonna say before you say it. It's gonna help you a lot, and everything. It's gonna make you look more confident because you're giving yourself time. You're not afraid of that awkward silence. You're not afraid to be quiet for just a little bit of time. Most people are, and that's why they fill in random words to fill out these blank spaces to keep the conversation going because they're afraid it's gonna die. Don't be so afraid the conversation's gonna die. Give yourself time to think, and then speak what you actually think. Speak what you really mean. Don't just speak out random stuff that you don't mean and then it just hurts you in the end. But that's really it. So just start thinking about what you speak more, or just start thinking before you speak more often, and just see how that impacts you. Hopefully impacts you in a good way. I think it would, but maybe some people disagree with me. I don't know who, but maybe somebody does. But I mean, other than that, life isn't too short to make change.